Bonjour à tous, bienvenue. Welcome again to our very special lesson about French politics, society and culture. Well, previously we have put emphasis and pay more attention about the scientific part of this lesson. And here from this lesson, we are moving toward the historical and social aspect of this course. And in this session, we are going to talk about these French people in anger in the history. So the title of this lesson is Rage Against the Ruler, because peasants, they want to live. Well, previously in the French history, many times, many uprisings have happened in which peasants or ordinary people, those poor farmers, they express their anger to their ruler, which is the king. Well, the very first example where we can talk about is something happened in 1358. The movement is called the Jacquerie. Well, there are several reasons for these farmers or peasants to rage against the king. The first reason, because the French king, Roi Jean le Bon, was captured by the Sassenach. Well, the word Sassenach is a very interesting word because recently I have been watching Outlanders. So Sassenach means English person in that series. So, well, all of you know that French kingdom fought against the English kingdom for 100 years. So in around 1357, the king, the French king, Roi Jean le Bon, was captured. Well, so the French kingdom was defeated, but this defeated kingdom is very weak and divided. Those high-ranking nobles, there is a quarrel among them. So this kingdom is weak, defeated, and divided, but in the same time, those nobles require higher taxes, and corvée means work, the forced work to these peasants means that you have to pay more tax and you have to work more for the kingdom, for the nobles, and so on and so forth. So corvée means forced working. All of us, we all know that life in the medieval age is very difficult. Those peasants, those farmers, those ordinary people, not only they have to pay tax to the noble, but they are also ravaged by gangsters or ruffians. So their life is very extremely difficult. And so those peasants, they have a simple question. Why do we have to work for the upper class? Why do we have to pay more tax to those nobles? But in the meantime, those nobles, those knights cannot protect their life. So normally in the so-called feudal system, those peasants pay tax in exchange for security. But those nobles not only cannot protect them, but urge higher tax for those peasants and those farmers. So those farmers are extremely angry, so they uprise. So this is a historical record in which we can see how cruel was the uprising. Peasants killed a knight, put him on a spit, and roasted him with his wife and children looking on him. After 10 or 12 of them raped the lady, means the wife of the knight, they wished to force feed them the roasted flesh to their father and the husband and made them then die by a miserable death. So, well, the painting here I presented on the slide doesn't necessarily represent exactly the scene of the Jacquerie, but in some way we can see from this painting how cruel was the uprising. But soon this uprising is being suppressed. So you see on the painting that these soldiers killed those ordinary people, all those revolting population. Well, the word Jacquerie comes from the word Jacques, J-A-C-Q-U-E. Well, Jacques, in fact, is some kind of a cloth, a kind of a jacket, wear by those peasants without armor. So that's where comes the word Jacquerie, because Jacques is something that those peasants wear. And on the painting, you can also see that these uprisings are cruelly suppressed by soldiers and armed knights, and people are killed and thrown into the river, so the river becomes bloody red after the revolting and the suppression. Jacquerie afterward is a synonym of peasant revolts. And in 1872, a French noble named Raymond de Vericourt, he talked about this very, very horrible memory kept by the noble class. He said, to this very day, the word jacquerie doesn't generally give rise to any other idea than that of the bloodthirsty, iniquitous, groundless revolt of a mass of savages. Whenever on the continent any agitation takes place, however slight and legitimate it may be, among the humbler classes, innumerable voices in higher, privileged, wealthy classes proclaim that the society is threatened with the jacquerie. So by this speech, we can see how this bloody incident shaped the memory of the upper classes noble. And then in the second example we can mention is happened in 1639, the so-called les pieds nus. So the reason of this uprising is almost the same. Well, because the royal family spent quite a lot of money to construct their very beautiful chateau. They organize fetes, festival, so the budget is in deficit. So the kingdom issued fiscal expedient to collect more tax. At that time, Normandy is considered to be one of the richest provinces of the kingdom. And for this rich province, of course, the king urged for more tax. So they are forced to pay higher tax, and they are forced to make stronger contribution than the other region for men, for corvée, for forced working, for military, and also money. So Normandy is become the region in which people are particularly angry about the king. So the Norman kill a tax collector and urge to taking back the right to fix their own tax amount. So they want to decide how much they contribute to the king. And some priests and some cultivated person, they also join this farmers' uprising or revolt, and they help spreading out idea of revolution. And especially this region, this very rich region, they want to get back their independence and their privilege. And so in this, on this painting, you can see those peasants execute tax collector or public officers or governors. So in the region of Normandy, many uprisings exploded. So why do we call this uprising les pieds nus? Because these farmers or peasants, they don't have shoes. On this painting, you can see that they don't wear shoes because they are so poor. So they don't have anything to put on their feet. And all the weapons that they can get are those, well, instruments, those things that they use in the farm. But quite in the same manner, these uprising has been severely suppressed, repressed by the knights, by the government army. And so these peasants, those farmers revolted, are being killed by the government officer. On this painting, I suppose that these poor wife are trying to pay to the soldier, pray to them that to save the life of his husband, but still his husband has been killed. And as you can see on the other painting, in medieval age, these penalties are very cruel. So those rebellions, once executed, they have been hanged on the tree to demonstrate to other peasants that this is the result of your rebellion, and you have to pay a bloody price. So about the Normandy, it is a rich region, and from this uprising, people living in Normandy are become suspicious by the ruler, by the king, because Normandy is closely linked to uprising, rebellion. So the Normandy is closely watched by the kingdom, by the king, and those Normans are considered to be a ferocious region. Well, I cannot find a more proper word for this phenomenon. Anyway, those Normans are considered by the king to be dangerous citizens. And so this is the end point of this session. Well, for the very famous French Revolution happened in 1789. The origin of this revolution is quite the same. The poverty, the war, the tax, the corvée, and natural disaster. Well, on this graphic, you can read La Guerre de Farine, because people have to fight for wheat because people starved. Famine and disaster destroy those cultures, and so people starve, but people have to pay more tax to their king or queens or nobles who spend quite a lot of money. And also, according to some reliable statistics, in 1780, the richest 10% of the population hold 52% of the gross revenues, whereas the poorest 20%, the lower classes of the society, they only hold 10% of the total national revenues. So there is a great inequity in the French society. So these are the references for this session. And we will continue our history later on for the next session. Until then, stay tuned, and we'll hope to see you next time. Au revoir, à la prochaine fois.